Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to the next video in this series of the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan, an introduction. Today we're going to look at the Darshana tradition or the darśanic tradition. We're going to look at the various philosophies within Hinduism and where the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan fits within all of these philosophies. And so first, let's look at the word darshana. What does darshana mean? Darshan means to see and be seen. Very literally, darshan means sight or view. There's a popular ritual known as darshan, in which Hindus would offer their respects to their respective deities by doing darshan or viewing the murtis, and having the murtis also be able to view them, hence to see and be seen. But the ancient rishis or the sages of India did much deeper contemplation and thinking when it comes to many of the things that they have read, seen, heard, talked about, discussed. And so darshan, much deeper, can mean where one contemplates on what is being seen, reflects on it, investigates it, discusses on it from different perspectives. And this is why you will see that Hindu philosophy is also known as darshan or the darshanic tradition, because it is not just seeing something and writing it down, but is contemplation, it is reflection, it is internalizing the philosophy. It's not something you just read and, move on with your day, but it's something that you internalize. And so in Hinduism, the darshanic tradition begins off with what is known as the Shad Darshana. Shad meaning six. So this is the six main darshans of Hinduism. And it's very important to note here that it's very difficult, first of all, to categorize Hinduism into neat categories because it's pluralistic in nature. There are many different ideas, theologies, principles, philosophies. It is very fluid. And so to categorize Hinduism into very, distinct categories, it's maybe not proper in a sense, or it's too difficult. However, over time, there was a need for a systematic way to understand various philosophies and how they fit in. And so the sages, Hindu sages, came up with this darshanic tradition. And so you begin with the six main traditions or philosophies in Hinduism, all of which try to, first of all, accept the authority of the Vedas to some extent, and second, try to explain basic concepts explained in the Vedas, such as Atma, Moksha, and many other things. And so very quickly we'll go through them. First is Sankhya. Sankhya was established by Kapil Muni. Key scriptures are Sankhya Sutras, Sankhya Pravachan Bhashya, and Sankhya Karikas. Sankhya Darshan basically explains that there's a distinction between two entities, Jad or Prakruti, which are insentient, and Chaitanya or Purush, which is sentient. Now, this is a very high level, first of all. There's a lot more complexity to all of these darshans, of course. And so at the very last presentation, I'll be going through all my references and all the books that you can go ahead and read to learn more about these. But Sankhya Darshan by Kapil Muni is the very first darshan. Second is Yoga Darshan by Patanjali Rishi. Key scriptures are Yoga Sutras. The objective of Yoga Darshan is to attain yoga. Now, yoga isn't just, downward facing dog or whatever, yoga is much more deeper than that. Yoga is the absolute concentration of the inner faculty. What that faculty allows you to reflect and contemplate. And so it is that absolute concentration and control over what is known as the chitta. And so the there's something called Ashtanga Yoga, which are the 8 steps to attain full yoga, the 8th being Samadhi. So Patanjali Rishi explains Yoga Darshan, which is the second darshan. The third is Gautam, or third, my mistake, is Nyaya Darshan. Nyaya Darshan was established by Gautam Muni. Key scriptures are Nyaya Sutras. And so Nyaya is an examination of objects through a means of knowledge. So the valid means of knowledge is known as Praman. And so it is basically explaining, right? You look at something and you ask why. Right? Why is it like this? And it's very logical in nature that a lot of the Vedic principles explained in the Vedas, right, are reinforced due to Nyaya's ability to have a logical and authentic reasoning to back up what is in these principles. The next darshan is Vaisheshik Darshan. Vaisheshik Darshan was established by Karnad Rishi. Key scriptures are Vaisheshik Sutras, as known as a twin darshan with Nyaya Darshan, because of their close resemblance. And so, in essence, Vaisheshik Darshan is a belief in an independent entity named Vishas, which distinguishes the differences between different matter and atoms. That there is some entity that you can distinguish the difference between one type of matter with another, or one type of atom with another. Karnad Rishi was also, he was, one of the backbone scientists with atomic theory and whatnot. And so that's Vaisheshik Darshan. Fifth darshan is Karmimamsa Darshan. Karmimamsa Darshan is by Maharshi Jaimini. Key scriptures are the Sharbhar Bhashya. It is also known as Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa means the need to reflect on karmas before reflecting on Brahm. So karmas meaning actions. So it's important to understand your actions, right, before you fully understand and reflect on Brahm. And so it focuses on the establishment of rites such as yagnas, offerings, and it explains a lot of these rituals in great detail on which rituals to perform when, how to perform them, and whatnot. And so that is Karmimamsa Darshan. The sixth and most popular darshan today is known as Vedanta Darshan by Maharshi Vedvyas. Key scriptures are known as the Prasthanatraya, which mean the 3 main scriptures, which are the Upanishads, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutras. This is also known as Uttar Mimamsa because it focuses more on the pursuit of knowledge of Brahm, or of the relationship between the Atma, the soul, and God. And so this is known as Brahma Vidya, the knowledge and pursuit of Brahm, right? Vidya meaning knowledge, so Brahma Vidya, naturally. And is not the only one, right? All 6 are practiced today, but it is widely practiced today. Because of the nature of Vedanta Darshan, is very easily accessible for many people to understand and to follow. And so Vedanta Darshan, right, we'll be looking at, has many darshans within it. And so this is one of the most popular darshans. Now, in Vedanta Darshan, as we said, the 3 main scriptures are the Prasthanatraya, which are the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutras. Upanishads, these are, you could think of them as an extension of the Vedas. These are part of the Vedas. There are 10 main Upanishads. You have the Bhagavad Gita, which is the dialogue between Sri Krishna Bhagavan and Arjun. Is one of the most popular scriptures in Hinduism that many people around the world know about, and widely look into, read, and reflect on. And then Brahma Sutras. written by Vedvyasji himself. And so we looked at these Shad Darshans, the 6 Darshans, but now we look at the 7 main Vedanta Darshans. These are Darshans within the Vedanta category, like we talked about. And for each one of these Darshans, right, each one needs to have a commentary, right, a valid commentary on these 3 scriptures, the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutras, known as the Prasthanatraya. So we'll go very quickly through them. So Advaita Darshan, established by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya. It explains that there's one entity, or one metaphysical entity known as Brahm. And ultimately, the goal is that knowledge is the ultimate means to realizing that one's identity, one is Brahm, right? This is one of the most popular forms of understanding within Hinduism. And this is, most likely if you have taken a world religions class, an intro to world religions class, this will be mainly the philosophy that they'll talk about, Advaita Darshan. Next, you have Vishishta Advaita Darshan by Ramanujacharya. He explains that there are 3 entities. First is the sentient, second is non-sentient, and third is Brahm. You could also think of this somewhat like Jeev, Maya, and Brahm. And so the ultimate goal of Vishishtadvaita Darshan, the purpose, is that bhakti or devotion is the ultimate means to attaining liberation. And that is aided by 2 things. First is knowledge of God, known as Gnan, and performance of one's duties, known as karma. The third is Dvaita Darshan by Madhvacharya. He explains that there are 2 metaphysical entities, Swatantra Tattva and Paratantra Tattva. That's a mouthful. Try saying that 5 times. But he explains Dvaita meaning 2, so there are 2 entities. And ultimately he says that bhakti is founded or based upon the knowledge of the greatness of God. So understanding God's glory to the fullest extent is the foundation for devotion. And that is the means for liberation. Next one, we have Advaita Darshan by Nimbarkacharya. He explains that there are 3 entities similar to Vishishtadvait, Chit, Achit, Brahm, so sentient, non-sentient, and Brahm. However, they are slightly different. And ultimately, Dvaita explains that bhakti, right, devotion, is the main means to liberation. Next, we have Shuddha Advaita Darshan by Vallabhacharya ji. He explains again, similar to Vishishtadvaita, 3 entities, sentient, non-sentient, and Brahm, or God. But again, there are slight differences in the nature of these entities. And so the ultimate goal for those who follow the Shuddha Advaita Darshan is that to have a complete refuge in Krishna and to follow the 9-fold bhakti, path of bhakti. And that is the primary means to liberation. Next, we have Achintya Bheda Bhed Darshan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have 3 entities, Chit, Achit, Brahm, same thing again. Again, slight differences, and you'll notice that, right, out of all of these darshans, they all build upon one another. And they have slight differences, or some of them have more differences than others. But especially, right, you might see that, oh, there are 3 metaphysical entities, so they all must be the same. But if you look at, for example, there's a nice article in Hinduism Today that shows, it's a nice chart that explains that, all the differences, the major differences between all the Vedanta darshans. So Achintya Bheda Bhed Darshan by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that bhakti ras, a form of bhakti, is the ultimate means and the end. And so that is liberation in and of itself. And that brings us to the seventh darshan, the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan, established by Bhagwan Swaminarayan. And he explains that there are five entities: Jiva, Ishwar, Maya, Brahm, and Parabrahm. Right? And so we explained, we talked about earlier, right? Akshar and Purushottam. Akshar is ideal devotee, Purushottam is supreme God, and we'll look more into this in the next video. But ultimately, right, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, as we looked at before, that the way and the fruit of liberation is realizing the oneness as Akshar, right? To realize oneself as Akshar, having oneness with Akshar, and offering devotion to Purushottam or God with loving servitude. So those are the five darshans. Now, or seven Vedanta darshans. Now, when we look at the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan, like we talked about before, a prasthanatraya needs to be written about the darshans prior to it being an official darshan. And so Mahamopadhyay Bhadrish Das Swami, under the inspiration of His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 2007 or 2005, undertook the task of writing the Swaminarayan Bhashyam, and he completed it in 2007. Again, the Bhashyam is where it is a commentary of the Upanishads, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras, and he used the Vachanamrit, the discourses of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, as well as many other references where Bhagwan Swaminarayan gave discourses and letters and whatnot as a means to explain the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan with credibility and validity. In 2017, he completed the Swaminarayan Siddhanta Sudha, which is a justification an exposition of the principles of the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan, how they are Vedic and how they are Sanatan or eternal. And so these are the two main scriptures which creates validity of the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan being a valid philosophy within Vedanta Darshan. Specifically in 2017, the Sri Kashi Vidvat Parishad, which is an authoritative council, and they handle many matters regarding to Hinduism and Vedic philosophy. They issued a declaration, an endorsement statement, saying many things, but the three most relevant ones are here. That first, that the Swaminarayan Bhashyam and the Siddhanta Sudha are sacred texts of the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan. Second, that just as we looked at these various Vedanta philosophies, for example, Adi Shankaracharya's Vedanta is known as Advaita Darshan, Ramanujacharya's Vedanta is known as Vishishtadvaita Darshan, and so Bhagwan Swaminarayan's Vedanta should now be known as the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan. And the final part in the letter said that the Akshar-Purushottam Siddhanta or Akshar-Purushottam Darshan, right, that is revealed and established by Bhagwan Swaminarayan is a distinct and Vedic Siddhanta or Darshan. That it is distinct, it is not like Vishishtadvaita or any other Darshan, it is a distinct and it is also Vedic, right, rooted within the Vedas. And so we looked at the Darshanic system today. We looked at the various Darshans very quickly today. Of course, there wasn't much time to explain each of them in detail. Possibly in the future, we might look at that. But we will do a deep dive in the Akshar-Purushottam Darshan. We looked at the, five metaphysical entities. We looked at the, the main sort of purpose of liberation in that one slide previously. So we'll be doing a deep dive into those five entities and talking more about how it all fits together. But today we learned about the Darshanic tradition within Hinduism, and I hope to see you all again for the next episode. Thank you, and Jai Swaminarayan.